Jurgen Klopp is undoubtedly one of football's greatest ever managers. However, a curse seems to follow him at every club he's managed, where in his 7th season, everything goes wrong. The origin of this curse can be traced back to his time at Mainz. However, to understand why this is considered a curse, we have to look at his previous seasons at the club. From his very first season as a manager, Klopp appeared to be a special coach, dragging the deflated Mainz out of the abyss of the relegation zone and securing their safety by a mere 3 points. Klopp's magic was already at work, and the next 2 seasons saw Mainz come within a whisk of promotion to the first division. Whilst missing out on such an achievement would have been disappointing, a lot of progress had been made under Klopp, and eventually, in his 3rd full season as boss, Mainz got promoted. This was an incredible feat, as for the first time in the club's history, Mainz were in the Bundesliga, and to this day Klopp claims promotion with Mainz will always be his biggest achievement. In their 1st season in the Bundesliga, Klopp guided them to a respectable 11th place finish and a spot in the UEFA Cup via the Fair Play Award for the following season. Mainz ended up going out to the eventual winner Sevilla and had another 11th place finish in the Bundesliga, but for a club who had spent just under 100 years in the lower divisions of German football, this was still a great spot to be in. However, in his penultimate season, Klopp couldn't continue to work miracles and Mainz were relegated back to the 2nd division. Having spent 3 years in the top flight, Mainz were expected to instantly come back up. However, they ended up having a poor season for the standards they had recently set themselves and missed out on promotion to the Bundesliga. Things weren't much better in the DFB Pokal either, with Mainz being knocked out in the 2nd round of the competition by 1860 Munich. This was a failure of a season all things considered and marked the start of Klopp's 7th season curse, a curse that would end up following him to his next club, Borussia Dortmund. At Dortmund, Klopp rose to fame within the football world, taking over a Dortmund team that was off the back of a 13th place finish in the league and immediately implementing his high energy, aggressive style of play known as Gegenpressing. This was a revelation in German football, and within 2 seasons, Klopp led Dortmund to their 1st league title in nearly a decade. Klopp's leadership continued to yield results, with Dortmund winning a 2nd successive Bundesliga title and a DFB Pokal the following season, and the season after that it took them to the Champions League final. Despite losing out to their arch rivals Bayern Munich in the final thanks to a last-minute winner, it was clear that Klopp had built something special at the club, transforming them from a mid-table team to a footballing powerhouse. But as mentioned earlier, the curse followed him here too. Despite the success Dortmund had seen under Klopp, everything came crumbling down in the 7th season. Going into what would be Klopp's final season at the club, Dortmund lost their star striker Robert Lewandowski to the reigning champions Bayern Munich, but despite this, Dortmund still managed to defeat them 2-0 in the DFL Super Cup, making the subsequent season even more of a shock. Things quickly took a turn for the worse after this cup win, with Dortmund going through an injury crisis, missing key players like Marco Reus, Ilkay Gundogan, Mats Hummels and Jakub Błaszczykowski. This, paired up with the squad seemingly struggling to keep up with Klopp's high-intensity style of play, saw Dortmund sit bottom of the league 19 weeks into the season with 4 wins, 4 draws and 11 losses. This was a disgraceful record for a team that had been runners-up in the league for the past 2 seasons and were Bundesliga champions over 2 seasons before that, and Dortmund getting relegated for the first time since 1972 was a real possibility. Despite the challenges, Klopp managed to turn things around and Dortmund had a strong end to the season, seeing them climb up to 7th place in the table to clinch European football, and they even made their way to the DFB Pokal final, which they lost to Wolfsburg. Although Klopp was able to somewhat salvage the season, the drop-off from the previous season was massive, and this established the idea of Klopp having a 7th season curse. After this disappointing 7th season, Klopp parted ways with Dortmund and a few months later joined Liverpool. At the time of his arrival, Liverpool was in a bit of a mess. They sat 10th in the league and had just sacked their manager of 3 years, Brendan Rodgers. It was clear from day one that rebuilding this struggling Liverpool side was by no means easy, but Klopp was up for the task at hand. Despite the challenges, Klopp had a promising start to life at Liverpool, leading the team to both the Europa League final and the League Cup final just a few months into the job, although they lost both of these matches. They also finished 8th in the league that season, which meant they had no European football the following season. However, this proved to be a blessing in disguise. With no midweek games to worry about, Klopp was able to focus on the league, and by the end of the season, Liverpool had secured a spot in the Champions League for the first time in 3 years. The next season proved to be a breakout year for Klopp and Liverpool, with them making it to the Champions League final, but ultimately losing to Real Madrid. Regardless of this loss though, people could tell that Klopp was on the verge of greatness at Liverpool, and the season after proved just that. Liverpool won the Champions League for the first time in over a decade, beating fellow English club Tottenham Hotspur in the final. They also came 2nd in the league, and if it wasn't for a goal line clearance by John Stones, if the one match they lost that season, they potentially could have won the league with 100 points and 0 losses. After missing out on the league title in heartbreaking fashion, Klopp and Liverpool were determined to go one better over the 2019-20 season. They started the season in dominant form, winning 26 of their first 27 league games, and by the end of the season, Klopp had guided Liverpool to their first league title in 30 years. This was a monumental moment for both Jurgen Klopp and the club, and it was hard to imagine things going downhill anytime soon. The next season, however, was a challenging one for Liverpool. The team was plagued by injuries, and at one point, it seemed like they might not finish in the top 4. Klopp and his team showed resilience though, and they ended up fighting their way to a 3rd place finish in the league. An impressive achievement given the circumstances. That takes us to Klopp's 6th season at the club, one season before the curse would strike again. This season was one of Klopp's best at the club, with Liverpool doing the domestic double, beating Chelsea in both the FA Cup final and the League Cup final. This double was 5 margins away from being a quadruple though, as Liverpool finished just a point shy of Man City in the league and made their way to the Champions League final. Although they lost the final 1-0 to Real Madrid, they dominated the game for large parts of it, and were unfortunate that Courtois had the game of his life in the final, saving all 9 Liverpool shots on target to deny them with the trophy. After so nearly becoming England's first ever quadruple winners, you'd assume Liverpool would be competing at the very top in the upcoming season, but for the 3rd time in his career, Klopp's curse has haunted him. Liverpool have had a dramatic drop off this season, failing to replicate the form they've been known for in previous seasons, with them losing more than triple the amount of games that they lost last season, and having some embarrassing results like their 5-2 defeat to Real Madrid at Anfield. Their away record in the league this season has also been dreadful, taking 19 points out of possible 51, an almost unrecognisable record when you look at how they've done away from home in the past. Despite some notable results like their 9-0 thrashing of Bournemouth and a 7-0 demolition of Man United, Klopp has struggled to get his team to perform consistently at the high level we've seen from them in the past, and barring a late collapse from Newcastle or Man United, the club's on course to miss out on a top 4 finish for the first time since Klopp's first season at the club. Whilst Liverpool have started to pick things up towards the back end of the season, it's looking like a case of too little too late, and this will definitely be a season to forget for both Klopp and the club. Regardless of the struggles Klopp has endured in his 7th season at each of his clubs, he's without a doubt had an immense impact on all of them, and is up there as one of football's greatest managers.